Hi guys.
Hey,
Hello.
Hey guys, welcome to the group theory presentation. We hope you enjoy it. Let's get started. Ethan, take it away.
Hello, my name is Ethan Zuloff, and I'm going to be discussing feminist theories of crime. Feminist theories of crime, also known as feminist criminology, is primarily about power and inequality, as well as looking at how women are statistically more often the victims of crime than men. This is evident through an example such as sexual assault, where women are more often than men the victim. But it also discusses female crime and deviance. It heavily discusses the relationship that women have with things like the employment and family systems, and where they lack and hold power in these systems as well. Also, it discusses how gender inequalities have become embedded in traditional systems such as the family system, the education system, and the legal system. Male violence against women. This is an analysis of crime that points out that traditional legal definitions of behavior, such as prostitution, pornography, sexual assault, and domestic violence, have been defined in society through a male perspective. How this relates to the scenario. When Tyson struck his wife, this was an example of how gender inequality is embedded in society because Tyson thought it would be an acceptable reaction to the confrontation of his wife finding the shoebox full of money to strike her. Explaining female crime. Prior to the late 1960s and early 1970s, criminologists ignored women when it came to explaining female crime by itself. Women that were criminals were considered to be more masculine than non-criminal women. This meant that they were not given a definition of their own. This was rooted in biological assumptions like the term sexual delinquency, which means male and female delinquency is different. Male delinquency is versatile and broad, whereas female delinquency is very specialized. An example of this is overwhelming sexual delinquency or participation in circumstances that are likely to overlap into sexuality. Relationships with the employment and family systems. Tyson's relationship with the employment system is that he is a construction worker. His relationship with the family system is as a father, and it seems that he has a very poor relationship with his family because he spends all of his free time drinking at a bar after work and not with his family, helping to nurture and raise his children. Amina. Amina is a part-time home daycare worker, and that is her relationship with the employment system. She seems to have a better relationship than most in her family with the family system. But she primarily has the best relationship with her child Camelia because she focuses almost all of her attention on her and her ballet. Luca. Luca has no real employment relationship. He is a student, but that is not really a job such as Tyson, who is a construction worker. It is not evident through the scenario that he has a horrible relationship with his family, with the family system, but it is not great either. If it was, he probably wouldn't be following Tyson's brother's criminal path. Camelia. Camelia has no evidence also of having a real relationship with the employment system, but she is a dedicated dancer in ballet, and this scene can be seen as somewhat of an employment with the of a relationship with the employment system because ballet is a very hard extracurricular activity and some people see it as a job. She seems to have the best relationship out of all of the family members with the family system because this is evident through an example that her mother calls her the nickname of My Little Ballerina. This shows that nobody in the family system really dislikes her. Everybody shows that they are committed to her, especially her mother, because she puts all of her focus on her and her ballet. Neuron. Neuron also has no real relationship to the employment system, and there is no evidence of her being a student. So she really has nothing that goes for her in the employment system. She has a poor relationship with the family system because she sneaks out, She feels that she has to sneak out past her curfew, and she gets tattoos illegally, and ones that her family, especially her mother, who is very religious, would not approve of her having.
Hello, my name is Coulter Jones, and I'm going to talk a bit about the labeling theory today. This theory can be traced back decades, and through symbolic interactionism, we are able to understand human behavior by examining the interaction that takes place between people through symbols. An example I really like from the textbook states, people do not respond to the world directly, but do so by attaching symbolic meaning to themselves in relation to the physical and social world. In essence, labeling theory suggests that the behavior between some individuals may be determined by the labels or terms we use to describe or classify them. When talking about primary deviance, we can define this by the initial stage of defining deviant behavior. So this is something minor that doesn't get a huge societal reaction. Looking at primary deviance through the scenario, we can see that Tyson is the father of 3 young children, and he also works a construction job, and most nights he goes to the bar with his friends to drink. Although this isn't criminal behavior necessarily, he is a father and a husband who has the responsibility to do fatherly duties and care for his family. The scenario further goes on to explain Neuron, who is the middle child, who is only 13 and gets a tattoo on her stomach. I know that evidence can be found that links tattoos to deviant behavior, especially on the stomach. She probably put it there so her parents wouldn't notice, as it's not an easily seen place. Most tattoo parlors also require you to have parent permission before they put a tattoo on you. Her mom is also deeply religious, so tattoos could be against her religion. Neuron not only gets a tattoo, she also stays out late past her curfew, which shows she's disobeying her parents' rules. All of this shows characteristics of primary deviance. Secondary deviance, however, is when people in society start to have a reaction to you. We know that Tyson's brother, Kamar, earns extra cash as a low-level numbers runner and a drug dealer with a local crime organization. Tyson's family knows this, as well as most of society. Luca is also having problems at school and has been arrested for stealing a car. The whole school now knows what Luca is capable of. Lastly, at the end of the scenario, Amina finds a box of cash in Tyson's closet, and when Amina questions her husband about this, she's assaulted. It is never okay to physically assault someone, especially your wife, and society believes these individuals should pay the price, therefore resulting in secondary deviance. Master status is the social position that is the primary identifying characteristic of an individual. So in essence, who the person is and who they are to you. It's obvious, but we know Kamar is a drug dealer. That is his status to people around him. Tyson is a construction worker, but to his family, he could be many other things. He could be a father, he could be drunk, he could be an alcoholic, he could be a husband, and he could also be abusive. Amina is a part-time worker. She's also deeply religious, which means she could also be strict on her kids, which may have caused them to rebel. Camila, who's the youngest child, we know is considered my little ballerina, according to her mom. Self-fulfilling prophecy is someone predicting or expecting something, and the prediction coming true because the person believes it. Luca could have been feeling lonely at home with his younger sister getting all the attention, which caused him to act out and steal a car. Luca could have also been surrounded with a bad friend group and been influenced to steal. He could have been told, "You're a bad kid," by his school. This could have been done by his friends or teachers even. Neuron also could have been feeling the same way, which caused her to do the acts of deviance. She could have seen that her younger sister was being called My Little Ballerina, and she wasn't receiving any attention. So that caused her to be deviant.
Hi, my name is Hannah Duval, and I will be discussing the social strain theory. Robert Merton developed this theory in the 1940s, which focuses on social inequalities. Merton identified that there are barriers, such as social class or race, that may prevent individuals from achieving the American dream. This ideal lifestyle is typically defined by the attainment of wealth and material possessions. Merton concluded that strain emerges when people cannot achieve cultural goals by the proper processes. He categorized 5 ways that people respond and adapt to strain. These include conformity, innovation, ritualism, retreatism, and rebellion. Merton's strain theory focuses on the lower class. So let's begin by examining the socioeconomic status of the family to unravel this scenario. Tyson is employed as a construction worker, and Amina works part-time in a home daycare, both of which are relatively low-paying occupations. It is likely that Tyson and Amina haven't achieved the American dream, considering the low income that the couple earns. It is also likely that the 3 children are struggling to attain everything that they want and need. Merton theorized that most people with a low socioeconomic status will resort to crime due to the limited opportunities that they have to achieve success. This could apply to the dynamic in this scenario. The Wrights are probably experiencing some strain due to the fact that they are unable to achieve their goals through institutional means. This tension can explain the choice that some of the characters make to resort to crime. Let's take a closer look at Tyson's character in this scenario. According to the strain theory, Tyson appears to be taking on the role of a retreatist, which rejects both the means and goals of society. This would explain Tyson's drinking habits. He is withdrawing from society and resorting to alcohol use. Perhaps this is a method of coping with the strain that he experiences from failing to lead what is deemed as a successful life. As for innovation, the scenario outlines that Tyson has been hiding a shoebox full of money in his closet. It is uncertain where Tyson acquired this cash. However, we can infer that Tyson obtained the money through some sort of crime. He could have been an accessory to his brother's crime, or he could have actively participated in crime himself. This changes his previous role of a retreatist to an innovator, because now he seems to accept society's goals, but completes them through non-legitimate means. The scenario concludes when Tyson strikes Amina. Hitting another person is in fact the crime of physical abuse. According to the strain theory, the most common emotion that is associated with strain is anger. Tyson's excessive use of alcohol could have induced his anger, causing him to lash out at Amina. As for Amina, she is pursuing a conformist approach to strain. She continues to accept the goals of society and the means of achieving them. She is deeply religious, and it is likely that she has adopted values that discourage crime. She has adjusted to strain, as most of society does, by engaging in socially accepted institutions, such as the workforce, to achieve success. Camilla appears to be following in Amina's footsteps and is also conforming to society's goals and means. Since Camilla and Amina spend a lot of time together, it seems Camilla is taking on a similar role. In this scenario, Tyson's brother Kumar is a drug dealer and collects extra cash working for an illegal lottery scheme. Merton would classify him as an innovator because he accepts the societal goal of financial success, but achieves this goal through non-legitimate means. In Kumar's case, he innovates by pursuing his goals through organized crime. The social strain theory would classify Luca as an innovator as well. Luca is at an age where class structure and financial success becomes visible. Those that are wealthy wear expensive clothes and buy expensive things, and he is exposed to this through schooling and social groups. Luca has also been introduced to the cultural goal of the American dream. He can acknowledge his place in the lower half of the societal hierarchy. This causes strain, and as a result, Luca acts out in school and steals a car. Luca's decision to commit this crime is a result of the social strain that he is experiencing from the desire to live the American dream. Lastly, Neuron has begun to reject the legitimate means of society by staying out past her curfew. She also got a stomach tattoo and appears to be rebelling against the rules set out by her parents. The strain theory accounts for these actions through the strain that Neuron experiences. Her family has few opportunities to achieve the American dream through legitimate means, which explains her nonconformist behaviors. At this point, it is too early to categorize her adaptation to strain, but if she continues on this deviant path, she could be categorized as an innovator or a retreatist. Perhaps she will innovate and attempt to pursue cultural goals through crime, or she may retreat from society's goals and means altogether.
Hi, I'm Catherine, and I'll be talking about the social control theory. Social control theory views society as a set of institutions that acts to control and regulate rule-breaking behavior. It believes that if an individual is properly bonded to society, then they will not engage in crime. But if these social bonds are broken or are weak, then an individual could be open to deviant impulses and therefore engage in crime. There are 4 social controls: commitment and belief, which are inner controls, and attachment and involvement, which are outer controls. Commitment is something a person can dedicate themselves to, or something they can invest their time into and strive to do well in, so they don't have time to think about being deviant. In this scenario, we can see that Amina has a part-time job as a home daycare worker. Since she is preoccupied with caring for the children that get dropped off at her house and preparing activities for them, she'll be less likely to have to engage in criminal activity. On the other hand, it appears as though Luca hasn't been doing well in school recently, which could have him feeling disappointed in himself. The poor school life could be reason enough for him to no longer care about doing well, which may have led him to stealing the car, seeing as though his commitment to school was weakened. It is also known that Tyson is a construction worker, so one would initially think that this could help him stay out of deviant behavior. However, he goes out for drinks after almost every shift with his friends, indicating he may be drinking as a way of coping with his job that he no longer enjoys, suggesting that the bond with his job is no longer strong. The lack of connectivity between Tyson and his job could have led him to the suspicious box of money he was keeping in his closet that he could have potentially been holding for his brother Kumar. Belief refers to an individual's morals and values and sticking to what they believe in. Amina is deeply involved in her Baptist church, and thus she is very religious. To go against the values that the Baptist church believes in would be a sin which would keep her from acting out of line and thinking about turning to crime. Since the rest of the family doesn't seem to be attached to any religions, they are more at risk of deviance due to the lack of morals they have to follow. For example, Neuron got a tattoo while being underage, which goes against the Baptist views. One also needs a parent's or legal guardian's supervision when getting a tattoo under the age of 18, so her acting out in this manner could be due to the weak belief control. Attachment, the strongest control, is having an emotional tie to a pro-social individual and respecting their opinion and not wanting to disappoint them. An example of this is Camelia and Amina's relationship. Camelia receives a lot of attention from her mom and has even been nicknamed my little ballerina. This kind of relationship demonstrates that Camelia would be less likely to do something bad, as it could damage the bond her and her mother share. However, with Tyson being out all the time either at his job or out drinking, the rest of his family is not as strongly connected to him, and his behavior of not being around often could influence their behavior. Additionally, Luca and Neuron are being neglected by their mother as well, so the lack of parental guidance and support from both of their parents could really affect their decisions and could be part of the reason for the stolen car and staying out past curfew. Involvement is participating in a physical activity or a group that does not have deviant behavior attached to it, or an extracurricular that can keep a person occupied and out of criminal activity. Since Camelia is enrolled in ballet, she's focused on learning her choreography or practicing a certain move, meaning she'll be too busy to think about acting deviantly. Even though she's only 9, assuming she continues down this path and dances for a couple more years, she's on the right track to staying out of trouble. The same could be said for Amina, as she is heavily involved with her Baptist church. Staying involved with her church will not give her as much time to engage in crime. Whereas with Luca, it's not known whether he's involved with a school sport or activity, but the particular friend group he hangs out with at school and potentially outside of school, as well as the possible lack of involvement, could be to blame for his problems at school and him committing a crime.
Hi, my name is Thomas, and I'll be discussing differential association theory. This theory belonged to Edwin Sutherland in the late 1930s. Sutherland suggested that criminal behavior is learned behavior and that it takes place primarily in small group settings. Individuals learn a combination of crime techniques and motivations along with the idea that the crimes they commit are morally justified. Sutherland states that a person is more likely to be involved in criminal activity if those who surround them are involved in criminal activity, such as family and friends. According to differential association theory, learning criminal behavior is the same process as learning other behaviors, like learning the law. Once one is exposed to deviant behavior, it can spark the influence of their direct individual criminal behavior. When applying the differential association theory to the scenario, I looked at the different types of people in the scenario and the different types of deviant acts that occurred and that they may have caused, and what influenced them to cause these deviant acts. So for Luca and Naran, both Luca and Naran could have been exposed to the type of friends at school that influence criminal behavior and are essentially acting as their teachers of criminal behavior. Luca has been getting into problems at school, which ultimately led him to getting arrested for stealing a car. This act of criminal behavior could be the direct result of the group of friends he has associated himself with, as he could have learned this kind of behavior from them. The cycle may have started with his friends exposing him to inappropriate conduct, and because they all do it, he believes it is okay for him to do it as they are his friends that he likely looks up to. Through associating with these friends, Luca picks up criminal learnings and mindsets that eventually led him to violating the law himself, such as stealing the car. His friends were likely the ones who taught Luca both the behavior and that it is morally justified. While Naran, on the other hand, she has not yet broken any laws. She has broken her household rules. For example, she broke curfew, got a tattoo. Those were rules that were established by her household. These acts of deviant behavior could be influenced by her friends as well, who may be breaking the rule as well, or be convincing Naran it is morally justified. Both Luca and Naran are frequently exposed to these friends as they would see them on a daily basis at school and most likely outside of school as well. This constant interaction with these groups and exposure to deviant behavior is likely the motivator and influence for their criminal and deviant activity. Although friends can be a major influence on their behavior, their families could also influence deviant behavior. For example, their dad Tyson always comes home late and their uncle Kumar is a drug dealer. Luca and Naran likely look up to these individuals as role models and see what they are doing as right, and this likely also influences their criminal and deviant behavior at school or around their household. When applying differential association theory to Tyson, I like to think about the money in the shoebox that Amina had found. This money could have been related to Tyson's brother Kumar. As we know, Kumar is a drug dealer part-time. Tyson could have started selling drugs to make more money on the side of his job, which is something he would learn from Kumar as he does the exact same thing. Tyson would learn the motivation of selling drugs to make more money and would learn the techniques on how to sell the drugs to be successful at doing so. Those are both things that his brother Kumar would be able to teach him as they have a close relationship and he is experienced in criminal behavior. Another thought that occurred is Tyson was holding the money for Kumar. He understands Kumar's motivation behind his criminal behavior, and he is just looking to help him out. That's because of their close relationship of being family. But unfortunately, it does cause them to indirectly commit criminal behavior.
Welcome back, guys. Thanks for watching our group theory presentation today. We hope you enjoyed it. For Ethan, Hannah, Thomas, and Catherine, I am Coulter. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.